Alright, welcome to another episode of MKF Nutrition. In today's episode, we're going to talk about a bit about carbs. And keeping in line with our previous videos, we're going to keep it to about 10 minutes, so we're only going to go through the important information. Now, I've been told that the videos might seem a little bit, a little less quiet. So I'm going to start raising my voice a little bit more, projecting it. That way I don't have to use a microphone. Pulls the room smaller down here. It saves me actually buying microphones, setting it up, editing music, doing all that sort of stuff. I'm just going to speak a little bit louder. The first part that we've got here, what are carbs? Carbs essentially, to break it down, is just sugar. So, sugar as its most basic form. And with sugar, that's what gives us the energy. So there's a couple processes here that the sugar goes through to turn into energy. Glycolysis, pyruvate cycle, acetyl cycle, the whole lot. The beta oxidization goes through multiple different cycles to get to energy. So to break it down into its technical terms, glucose and energy as ATP. So you might see these words floating around in the fitness sphere. That's just their technical terms for it. Now, why is it so important? Where do carbs come from? And what's this all in relation to health? So, a couple basic sources of carbs, as probably everyone's aware of, are our rice, pasta, we've also got our potatoes and our starchy, apparently I can't flip it, potato, muesli, oats, and then we've also got some form of carbs in our veggies, and our biggest one is fruits. And then there's a whole bunch of other areas you can get carbs. Carbs are practically found in everything because everything contains some sort of energy. And that's a whole other physics lesson, but energy can't be created or destroyed. Energy can only be created from one source to another source. So we've got energy from here that gets turned into heat, mechanical movement, all that sort of stuff, energy. And then we explore that energy into movement kinetics and all that sort of stuff, but I'm not getting into deep there. But these are our main sources, or the sources that we generally eat in terms of, you can add noodles and all that extra stuff in there, but these are the main sources of carbs that we all eat during the day. During the week, whenever we go out, the whole lot. And sweet. Now, in terms of nutrient profiling for each one of those foods, I'm going to go in a different video and break down how much carbs are in potatoes and why sweet potato can technically be better for you than rice when you're trying to lose weight, because sweet potato has less calories per 100 grams compared to rice. Actually, let me rephrase that. For the same amount, yes, but you'd have to eat more sweet potato per 100 grams to get the same amount of carbs for each one. So realistically, sweet potato, you're reducing your calories. And that's where fat loss comes in, which ties us beautifully into now, why is carbs so important for fat loss? So what we get is, we eat food here. Maybe I should make that a little bit bigger. We eat food that goes into our body. Now, in our body, as we spoke about before, that gets turned into energy, which then either gets used in movement, etc., exercise, let's put it as PA, physical activity, or it gets unused and it gets stored as fat. Now, why is this the case? Why does energy either get used or get stored? Now, this is coming back from evolution. I was going to say generation, from an evolutionary perspective. So, we're all hunter-gatherer creatures. So, back then, you couldn't just go to a 7-Eleven, couldn't go to a fast food restaurant, there was nothing convenient for us to go get food instantly and for us to get energy instantly to go out, hunt another gazelle, hunt a man, to do something, fight another battle. So what we had to do was, our system had to improvise a way to store energy just in case we needed to make a sprint from a lion, from a tiger, from some sort of danger. Our fight or flight response had to kick in. So what happened was the energy that wasn't consumed got stored as fat for a later day. We can then use that stored fat as energy. And this is how the cycle goes. We eat some food, gets turned into energy, we either use it immediately, some of the energy does get stored as fat for later use. Now, with the storage of fat, this does take a little bit longer for it to break down, and the way fat gets broken down is a little bit differently to the way energy gets used immediately from eating food. These are two different types of energy systems that are being used, and the muscle activation and all that stuff is a bit different, which I'm going to go later on into a fat loss or fat metabolism video. But in essence, what we have here is eat food, energy, either we use or get stored as fat, which is why I always recommend cutting down carbs first rather than fats and protein. Now, what that looks like, I suppose I've still got 2 minutes. What that looks like now, 1 gram of carbs is equal to 4 calories. Now, whenever I'm calculating any sort of dietary intake, any dietary recommendations, any dietary advice for any of my clients or for anyone in general, I leave carbs till last. Carbs are the ones I least go to. So we first find out how much protein is required, how much fat is required, because those two are mandatory macronutrients that are needed in the body. Carbs comes at the end, because we've still got energy stored all the way around our body as either so we've either got it as visceral or subcutaneous fat stored around the body. So whenever we're eating food, we've got to be mindful of all the food that we eat contains energy. So if we're having a big portion of pasta, a big portion of bread, big portion of noodles, big portion of oats, something like that, we've got to be mindful that we're consuming a lot of energy. So are we going to be meeting our daily requirements of energy expenditure to burn that energy before it gets stored into fat? Depends, yes or no. Some people could be very physically active, which then with a high metabolism, they would need more carbs. But for people that are looking at losing weight, a lot of the times we have our veggie, meat, and then we've got our carb alternate here. So we've got the protein. There's also carbs in here as well. So now, a quick way of starting to reduce and starting to increase that fat loss, that fat metabolism, and start spurring on those fat storages to start limiting is removing a little bit of carbs in this portion here and adding on a little bit more here, which is going to reduce your calories, put you in a calorie deficit, and from there that's where fat loss comes in. So that's just a real basic, almost tutorial on carbs in the body. I didn't want to make it too complex. I wanted to keep it within the 10-minute structure.